and kind of do a run-through of the breakdowns of the ones that you want help remembering or help understanding how to write, or any other questions you have about the kanji in this chapter. So our first one on the pile is
Densha.
densha. Any questions about how to write the den or the sha, or any mnemonics that you need help with? Have we talked about the mnemonics for these already in this class? The den, the breakdown is the top half is ame, rain. The bottom half is a kite, right? And so it's the Ben Franklin story of how he discovered electricity, flying a kite in the rain. And you can see the rain's on top, flying down onto the kite. So that's a nice, easy way to remember the den, right, for electricity. And then the sha, we've talked about the fact that it's representing like a bird's eye view of a two-wheeled farm cart. You've got wheel, the cart bed in the center, some kind of cargo in the cart bed, and the axle running through the whole thing, right? So, I forgot, one of the things we did as a warm-up this morning, but we don't have to do it since we're running late tonight rather. But one of the things we did was we contrasted some characters that look similar that might be confusing for people. One of the pairings that one student put up was kuruma juxtaposed with higashi. Yeah. Is that an issue for anybody?
Boy, howdy. No, because I feel like I'm more comfortable with Gashi because it's like.
Yeah, well, if you do a tree, and then you do your sun separate, the sun rising behind the trees in the morning in the east, you know, that's higashi, right? So if you know that one is the sun behind the trees for east, and you know that this one is the farm cart from above, then it's easier to keep them distinct from one another, I think, right?
The way I remember it is Kuruma Isu is the wheelchair. And it looks just like a wheelchair.
Okay, Kuruma Isu is a wheelchair, and yeah, it does kind of look like a wheelchair.
Just like.
Okay, and yeah, if this were your wheelchair, you'd have a broken wheel and you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, that's not a wheelchair.
Yeah, so that's a good way to think of it, but basically the idea of the exercise was pairing kanji words or phrases that are easily confused with one another. What got it started was that somebody came in and wrote on the board denki, tenki, and genki, and was saying that, you know, those three were an issue because they are, in the case of denki and tenki, very close in pronunciation. There's only a 10-10 difference between them, right? Denki, tenki. And in the case of tenki and genki, they're very close in how you write the ten and the gen, right? And so the three of them don't really have anything to do with one another. They just all happen to share the final syllable ki, the same kanji ki, and some similarity of sound or look, right? So that's kind of what got us started. Somebody came in and just randomly decided to write those on the board and labeled them false friends. And I thought, oh, what a neat idea for a warm-up activity. So let's take that and run with it. And so another set that somebody came up with was hito, hairu, and, oh gosh, what were the other two? Oh yeah, ima, and ao, which is also the kai and kaisha. Because these two, you know, this is obviously hito, this is hairu, which is like a mirror image of hito, right? And then you've got, both of these have the hito radical on the top, and then what's underneath is what differs. And the ao that's in aimas and also in kaisha and shakai and kyokai means to meet, as in to get together with other people, right? And if you break it down further, you've got the hito, and then ni, and then katakana mu, right? And so we were talking about, like two people having a eating. That's really bad, but it's something to help you remember it, right? Versus this one, the person, if you kind of stylize this a little bit, you get katakana ra. So the person is now singing la la la. So really bad mnemonics, but I couldn't come up with anything better. If you guys have a better idea, let me know.
The only thing I see has no reference to that.
Okay, so that was that set, and then I don't really remember what some of the other ones were that people came up with as confusing sets. Oh, I know one of them was nani, just in general. The fact that you write the top line first, then the kuchi, and then the downstroke with the hook on it. She was saying that she always was tempted to write these two as one piece, but this is in fact a different symbol. Because this symbol exists, but it's more rounded, doesn't come to quite so much of a point, and it is not the same component at all. Okay, so it's important to note that. Also, we talked about the fact that if you break out the two components, obviously the first half of nani is the radical for person, hito, you guys know that one already. If you break it apart, the other side of nani is the ka that's in kanose, which means possibility. So this piece kind of means like possible in a way. So the person is asking what is possible. It's a way of remembering that it's nani, none.
I just really remembered it because it's in the textbook
Yeah,
everywhere.
it's in the textbook a lot, yes, and it is one of those kanji that you just see frequently in Japanese because it gets used so much. Okay, so it's not that hard to learn. And if you break it apart, you've got the ichi, and then you've got the kuchi, and then you just have the downstroke after that. I don't really have a particular mnemonic for the downstroke piece, but
Can we just go over stroke order for top of it? Because it's just
okay,
lots of crazy ones.
okay. Do you want to go over stroke order for the densha part too? Would that help? It's basically top to bottom is kind of the rule of thumb here. But if you break it up, you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty detail. Ichi, ni, san, shi, go, san, go, roku. You see where I'm going with this? 1,2,3,4,5,6,7,8. So far so good. And this, by the way, is also ame. It's the stroke order for ame, so even though they don't introduce ame till later for some strange reason, you now know it.
Yay.
Yay. So then, 1,2,3,4,5,6,7,8. And then I'm just going to do the bottom half separately, because otherwise it's going to take a long time. So it's basically a michi with the tail added. So imagine having like a made in the shape of a sun, but it's got a tail. So maybe it's a comet, I don't know. It's a comet kite. Okay, so does that help? Okay, and then the sha also, basically top to bottom. You do the ichi, then the nichi in the same order that you would do it anyway, and then the bottom ichi, and then the slash that connects them all is last. And the way you know whether a vertical slash is going to be last or not is, does it cut through all the way? If it cuts through at both top and bottom like it does here, or like it does with naka, then you can just about guarantee that that vertical stroke is last. If it doesn't cut all the way through, that changes the rule. Okay? So these are some of the basic sort of fundamentals of Japanese kanji rules in terms of stroke order. Okay, so as you learn more of these fundamental rules of how stroke order basically works, you won't necessarily be so conflicted all the time about what to do with them. Okay, so does that help with den and sha? Okay, and we talked about nani, so when we get to that one, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, tsukuru is the next one in the pile, right? And to make, yes. And I think we talked about it, that it looks like person, and then it looks like some sort of fancy plumber's wrench or some other fancy tool. So a person is holding a tool in order to go make something. So that's a way to remember it. You don't see that at all? Okay. Well, in terms of breaking it down for stroke order, let me show you. So the hito part is first and the same order it always is, right? And then since there is a disconnect here between the part that looks like hito and the other part, there, it's not the same, okay? So you actually do this line next, and then that horizontal piece, that's the next component, okay? And then the downstroke. Remember what I said about the downstroke isn't always last? This one doesn't go last because it doesn't cut through, right? And then the two little side pieces are top first, bottom second. And I always like to double check that one just because I learned that one in Chinese first. So sometimes I teach everybody, do it this way, and then they say, but wait a minute, in the book it says something different, and I just taught you the Chinese one.
What is the Chinese
In this case, it's the same. But every once in a while, there are certain kanji where, like the yo in doyobi, that yo, the kanji order is slightly different in Japanese than it is in Chinese. If you're going to write that same character in Chinese, the short-tailed bird component has a slightly different order to it.
Instead of like one stroke down.
And then the three cross pieces, I think it does the three top horizontals, then the downstroke, and then the final bottom piece. And that's just a cultural difference between the two countries, that over time it's evolved in slightly different directions. Somebody in Japan thought that doing the downstroke before the final three horizontals was more risk efficient, but somebody in China thought the reverse. And so it is what it is. But some of the more picky senseis in Japan really wanted us to always do the Japanese stroke order, and they would get mad at the Chinese students who didn't bother to study their stroke order because they figured they already knew it, and they just come in and take the kanji test without having studied. And they do the stroke order Chinese way instead of the Japanese way.
How do they enforce that? Do you have to do it like stroke by stroke in a box?
I think they could tell from their handwriting, because when you don't lift your pen between strokes, you get little light connections or,
You've been writing it all your life as part of your language.
yeah.
You would write it.
It's, yeah. It comes out a little cursive when you write it quickly, and so I guess they can tell sometimes. It's a little bit like when my friends from various formerly British Empire countries came to this country for college, and the English teachers here got on their case about using British spellings, and they were really upset that, you know, these are not incorrect spellings, they're just British spellings. Why can't we use our British spellings that we've used our whole lives? Why do we have to change to the American spellings for our English essays for American English class? They just thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever.
I agree.
My
Yeah.
school,
Why not allow both spellings, right? But apparently, there were some English teachers in my American college who thought that everybody should have to use American spellings and American
my high
grammar.
school is an East school, so we don't care, because East is British. So
Yeah.
every single one of our textbooks in an East class is British. I'm
Oh,
taking an
okay.
East English class, the textbook is in British spellings.
Right. So you're used to
Yeah,
British spellings. and you-
I'm used to it, and
Yeah.
I'll like accidentally write it, and my teacher will not care. Like I'll write,
Okay.
like in biology, you just kind of learn the terms, you don't know if they're wrong or not. So I'll be like writing hemoglobin with an extra A in it, and everyone goes, "What is that?" I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
It's
I know what you mean.
It's like no detriment to your ability to like communicate effectively. At worst, someone's gonna go, oh, that person's British reading and writing.
Right, yeah, so I don't
It's not like that
understand
person's
why some
American,
teachers
so-
were so against it, but the grammar is a different story, I think. If you're grading essays, there are some really big differences between American and British grammar and punctuation rules. Where I could see where it would be difficult for somebody who's grading a whole stack of papers to have to switch back and forth and remember, oh, this person's from a British English country, I have to read this differently. But that's, you know, that's a different question. So anyway, getting back to Nihongo. Shinbun, right? So the breakdown of the shin and the bun. Are you ready? Okay. So the shin breaks down really interestingly. We've got this component, which is a lid, two little strokes, and then a bottom piece, but the whole is tatsu, to stand. It kind of does look like a lantern, like you're standing there holding a lantern.
it always reminds me of those like stone lantern.
Yeah, but it's actually to stand, as in stand up, tatte kudasai, you know, and then underneath, you know that one, right? Everybody knows moku, tree, ki, okay, and then this other piece, which is also the right hand side of nomu, nomimasu, you remember that? Recognize this from nomu? This piece means to owe, as in I owe you money. Okay? So the best but wait a minute, no, owe was something else. This one is axe, that's right. This one is axe, as in for chopping down trees. So what we came up with in the morning class was you're standing among the trees with your axe, ready to chop down some new firewood for the shin that's in shinbun, which is also atarashi, right? New. So I know it's a bit of a stretch, but it was the best we could come up with. If somebody else has a better idea, please let me know. Okay, so that's the shin and shinbun. And then the bun part is also kiku, right? This kanji is also kikimasu, to listen. And if you break this one down, does everybody know this radical? I hope you do. We studied it last semester. Door, right? And then everybody knows this one also, right? Which is? Ear. So if you think about pressing your ear against the door to listen, that's easy to remember the kikimas part, right? You know, you're eavesdropping on their conversation, pressing your ear to the door to listen. But in terms of shinbun, new and listen, the idea we came up with for the phrase was the concept of listening to the town crier read the newspaper to everybody so that they could hear the news. Okay, so that's the best I could come up with. Whether or not Japan actually had town criers, I don't really know. But it stands to reason that if Japanese villagers were going to get news from outside their village in any way at all, it would have been something like that, because the average Japanese peasant was not educated in the olden days, you know? Just like in every other pre-industrial nation, if you were a farmer and that's all you did for a living, and you needed every person in your family to help with the farm chores, you couldn't afford to send your kids to school instead, because that was hours and hours that they'd be spending studying instead of working. And you wouldn't be able to feed your family if you did that. So, kaishain, yeah. So we talked about the kai, right? So two people meeting, right? The sha, this ne katakana piece is actually the radical shinesu, to show. And then you've got tsuchi, also known as the do and doyobi, which means soil. So if you've got an image in your mind, has anybody ever seen like sumo wrestling on TV, and they've got this sort of raised earthen stage where they show the sport, right? They're on a dirt stage, right, to show off what they can do, right? And that is a sort of traditional element that dates back to ancient Shinto rituals, because that's what sumo wrestling really is. It's a Shinto ritual that was originally intended as amusement for the gods, not for humans. But humans get to watch too, because the gods don't take up any space since they're spirit. So a lot of Japanese Shinto traditions go back to that sort of thing. A lot of the performance arts in Japan are all coming out of a Shinto religious tradition in their origins, and then they got secularized over time. So and that stage and soil combination means place. Sha is place, location. So kaisha, a place where you meet with your colleagues, right? Kaisha, company. Makes sense, right? And then the in is an employee, right? Well, you've got the mouth, and then you've got the kai, cowrie shell, which is in a lot of things to do with commerce and trade. So, and I think it just looks like a Lego person, you know, square little head, rectangular little body, stick legs, you know, right?
That's gonna get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So if you think about, you know, like one of your little uniformed Lego people, kaishain, you know, and there are, you know, there are all kinds of stereotypes about how Japanese businessmen are sort of robotic, and there's stereotypes about how,
Really?
That's actually really kind of cool.
yeah,
I doodled it.
yeah. And you can also think about like people who go to work in uniform, and this kind of looks like a uniform. And this in is not just used in kaisha-in, it's also used for employees of other kinds of major institutions like Ekiin means a train station employee, and they all wear uniforms
Kind of
normally.
looks like a suitcase with legs.
Okay, well, maybe it's a briefcase with legs,
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah.
Like all you're seeing is the briefcase and the legs.
Yeah.
So Kaisain, company employee. So is that enough to help you remember this one? Okay, moving on. So Nanji, we already talked about Nan, and Ji you guys already know about sundial, right? Okay. Tsugi, this is the one that has O in it.
I find that one hard to write, is the first two dashes.
Okay, let's break it down and see if we can make it easier.
I find it's easier if you let the bottom dash lead into the top piece.
Yeah,
first stroke.
when I write it fast, it kind of just all flows. But, you know, if you're gonna break it down, dot, 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 slash, dot, dot, slash, hook, dot, dot, slash, hook. Sorry, and then dot, dot, slash, hook, slash, slash. So, and if you break it down even further, you'll see that the first two dots are the radical that is usually associated with ice. You know, you may remember the 3-dot radical, which is mizu, right, Sunsui? That's the 3-dot radical, but the 2-dot radical is ice. Why, I don't know, since water expands when it freezes, but go figure. So anyway, 2 dots is ice, and it's in words for ice things that are in kanji. Okay,
Wait,
it's
did you say water expands when it freezes?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, did you?
Yes.
It's like it becomes
No.
solid.
That's why you can't put
Water
sodas in
is-
the.
that's why if you overfill your water bottle and then put it in the freezer,
It cracks.
it'll like crack it.
Solid water is less dense because think of it like the hydrogen is complicated.
No, I know.
It's
Just
just,
when like a barrier, they have like an equal amount of spacing, but when they're like gas and liquid, the particles are moving around, so it's like there's like less space.
Hydrogen bonds are constantly breaking and reforming in fluid form. And it's all a large mix of contributing factors because of
Yeah.
its nature as a polar molecule.
Science.
Yeah, so at any rate, maybe the ancient Chinese people who invented kanji didn't know all that, and they assumed that ice would contract. So maybe that's why. I don't know how it came about that ice is only 2 dots instead of 3, but such is life. And maybe it's just because the 4-dot radical was already taken, because that one's fire. So who knows? But anyway, so
What's stroke
Tsugi-
order for ear?
I'll go back to that in a second. So finishing up Tsugi, so you've got the 2-dot radical, which is ice for whatever reason, and then you've got the other half, which is this little sort of awning-shaped piece on top, and hito on the bottom, but the combination apparently means to owe, as in owe someone money. What any of that has to do with being next, I have no idea. I owe you some ice next? I don't know.
It's also like part of like Nomu. Like,
yeah,
you know,
so that
You're-
also is just like, what?
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's the one that's in Nomu. Yeah, the other one is in, no, that's Gohan. What's this in that I was thinking of? Yeah, this is the other half of Nomu, not that. Yeah. Yeah, so the, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you
You
about
owe
those
the
two.
mobsters money, next they'll be putting you on ice.
Okay.
Okay then.
Macabre, but works. If it helps you remember
That's a
Tsugi.
bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so at any rate, so that's Tsugi. So does that help at all with how to write it?
I saw you for the second one, the second line, or like
Yeah.
you go up.
Yeah.
I was doing it the other way.
Oh,
So it never
that,
looked right.
yeah, that would be why. Yeah. And that's one of the unfortunate things about this textbook is that it shows you which line to put next, but it doesn't show you which direction each line is supposed to go. So I guess that's a good reason to do it in class. Okay, so Yomu, if you're ready to move on. Oh, you had a question about the mini stroke order, the ear. So it's top line, the left side, then the horizontal ones,
I'm serious? Why then
and
the
then that.
Make it look pretty.
I don't like that.
Unless Japanese does it differently, but let me double
I
check.
think it's that exact same.
That's how it
Yeah.
said in the book.
Yep, that's the way I've always done it.
Wait, okay, so it's the horizontal, wait, do you
Yeah.
do,
Ichi, ni,
oh no, just, you can write it out normally again, I just need to watch
Yeah.
you.
okay,
You don't have to do
ichi, ni, san, shi, go,
Okay, so you do the bottom one.
roku. Yeah,
Okay.
it is what it is. Yeah. That, hey,
I'll get used to it, I'll get used to it.
at least your kiku is just this much, right? You want to see what traditional Chinese uses?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can even remember it. Wait a minute. No, I think it starts with
My
this.
dad did some writing doodles from Chinese.
No, wait a minute. No, it starts with the ear, right, and then that, and then that.
This is the lunch.
That is the traditional Chinese
I'm good, I'm done.
word for listen. So compared to that, Japanese is a cinch.
And Taiwan uses traditional.
Yes, Taiwan uses this
Poor
character to this
Taiwanese.
day.
Poor Taiwanese.
All those poor Taiwanese school children who have to learn this in elementary school, because how do you get through elementary school without knowing how to write the word listen? Can you imagine? That's probably like a first or second grade word in Taiwan. And they're stuck learning all of that. Yeah.
It's easy.
Those poor Taiwanese kids.
Oh, so I finally figured out it's not Cantonese at my work.
Oh,
There's only one person speaks Cantonese and it's the woman in the back. But they
okay.
speak, it starts with an F or something.
Fujian.
That.
Okay.
Yes, he's something.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, well, that's cool.
Yeah, are they from mainland China Fujian, or are they speaking the Taiwanese Fujian?
I don't know.
But that's
Okay.
easy.
Have you seen them write crazy complicated characters like that, or
Oh,
simpler
yeah.
ones?
That.
Okay.
But it's also like,
They might be from Taiwan then.
well, no, because they are Chinese.
Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
Taiwanese people are Chinese.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
They're just not communist
Okay.
Chinese.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Very brief history lesson. The Aboriginal people of Taiwan lived there since prehistoric times.
Uh-huh.
In like the 17 and 1800s, people from the Fujian province of China migrated across the strait to Taiwan because they're neighbors, and settled and kind of pushed the Aborigines up into the mountainous areas, and they took over the best spots for settling. In 1949, when the communists won the civil war in China, the nationalists, the government that was trying to be something like a democracy, sort of, they escaped and ran away and landed on Taiwan and basically said, well, you guys are already Chinese, so we're just going to take over here. And we're your new government. And so the people who had been in Taiwan for several generations, but were also Han Chinese, became like subjects of this new government that came over from the mainland. Taiwan had been a province of mainland China up until then. And so basically it would be as if communists took over the United States and the US government escaped to Hawaii and said, okay, you guys, you're not just the state of Hawaii anymore, you're the new country of the United Democratic States of America.
And that is when the U.S. started ignoring China until Richard Nixon.
Right. Yeah, so, yeah, from 49 until the 70s, we had formal relations with Taiwan, not China, and then Nixon changed all that. Now we have formal relations with China and not Taiwan, because China refuses to do business with anybody who acknowledges that Taiwan is a legitimate separate country, because they consider it a renegade province.
I feel like this is something
Yeah.
similar happening with Israel, right?
Israel's a whole different
Israel's a
bastard.
completely different thing.
Yeah.
That's a way
That's
different
because
situation.
of
Analogies
the
can't quite
religion
be
and
drawn
the
there as easily.
Holocaust.
Yeah.
So.
Gosh, everyone just had to jump on that train real fast when I
Sorry.
said that. Never
Sorry,
mind,
but-
please
That's
continue.
the
Yeah.
central
So-
problem with like the Middle East.
Yeah.
I understand that. Never mind. Can we just go
We'll-
back to what we were
We'll
doing?
talk about Middle East stuff some other day. Okay, so
Drifting
let's
into
go on
a
to
different
young
part
one.
of the world.
Sorry, we didn't mean to jump down your throat about it.
No, I was just like, asked a
Yeah.
simple question. Everyone's like, oh well, no. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
God, let's get back to Japanese.
Okay, so yomu, right?
To read.
To read. And the short negative, just to practice, would be
You and I.
yomanai, right? Okay, and of course we have the U radical, which everybody already knows, I hope. Imas. And we've got scholar on top, and then this shape that's like a roof,
It's just a cover on here.
it's just cover, okay, and then legs. So, you know, we talked to last time, I think, about the fact that the top piece kind of looks like a scholar's hat.
I just imagine a little scholar like talking to people and like
Yeah.
kind of writing it down.
Yeah, there you go, talking to people and writing it down.
But with the
And
moo
reading.
in that font makes it look like they're talking to a cow.
Okay, the scholar is talking to a very smart cow.
That's just how it looks with that font.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Wisdom
okay.
knows no bounds.
Yeah. This font, because it does the connected stroke instead of the separated stroke from moo, she said it looks like a cow.
Oh, the moo's a cow.
Yeah, the
Okay,
moo is a cow.
yeah.
Yeah, so the scholar is talking to a cow and writing down every moo. Yasumi, yeah. So everybody remembers the breakdown for this kanji, right?
I have it drawn.
Guy laying on a tree.
Yeah, guy leaning against the tree to rest. I always think about like that classic cowboy image, the guy sitting with his back to the tree trunk with his hat over his face, you know, taking a nap.
It's like someone like bowing to the tree.
Okay,
That's what it looks like.
okay. Kuruma, we already talked about and broke down. I think everybody's okay on that one, right? Nanjin and Nani, Nannin and Nanijin, I got those backwards. Nannin and Nanijin, right? And Nani and Nan, we talked about, okay. Omo, we've talked about before, right? I think, and it's rice field and heart. And everybody's okay on the stroke order for both of those? And how to write them? Okay. And of course, you to say, and past, not past, short form negative would be you and I, right? Short form negative of this one would be yasumanai, right? And we already talked about that. Okay, and we already talked about Denki, right? Any questions about that one? Okay. And we already talked about Kiku, so, and short negative of that would be Kanai, right? And we already talked about Akarashi, right? And Shigoto. And I think we talked about this last time in here, so a person who is a scholar. And what were scholars in ancient Chinese culture? The servants of the emperor. So this together means servant. Makes some sense, right? Scholars serve the emperor. The whole like bureaucratic system in ancient China was based on that system of, you know, examinations that they had to be good scholars in order to get a position in the bureaucracy serving the emperor. The idea being that highly educated people would do a better job of running the country, basically.
Which wasn't that first like put in place by like the one female emperor amid the like.
I don't
Emperors
remember there
and
ever
emperors
being a
back then?
female emperor in China.
I remember it specifically being brought up like, oh, this is the what. I'll talk about it later.
Okay. As far as I remember, the whole bureaucratic system goes way back to like, I don't know, one of the very early emperors to consolidate power and unify some of the regions that had previously been separate groups, but I don't remember specifics right off the top of my head right now. So anyway, the koto part of shigoto, this is koto when it's a standalone kanji, and shigoto is the compound. And I think we talked about it. I looked it up, and this shape that is sometimes associated with a hand holding a pen in terms of the shape of it, that bottom third of the kanji, apparently it's actually a pig's head,
Oh,
but
oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but what that has to do with work, we could not come up with. But it was grossing out the vegans in the class, so we decided to change back to hand holding a pen or other tool. And this part, you know, if you just look at it visually, you've got like, this is the person's head, the mouth part could be like a head and a hat. So like a person wearing a hat and holding a tool of some sort to do their work.
And that line through the middle could be the body.
And the line through the middle, the vertical line could be the what?
Body.
The body, okay. So,
I tried.
yeah. So does that sort of help?
Very
Sort of.
big hand.
It's a very large hand. It's disproportionate. You know, it's like one of those crazy cameras that zooms in on just one part. You know, like the dog with the big nose, because it's putting the nose in the camera. You know, so it's kind of an exaggerated thing, but shigoto. So and we also, for the compound, we were talking about the fact that koto means something that happens as opposed to a concrete physical object. They both mean thing, but mono is a thing that you can pick up, and koto is a thing that occurs, right? So if you think about serving by doing things, right? That's your work, shigoto. So does that kind of make sense? Did anybody want me to break down how to write this kanji, or
I think we already did.
we already did last time, I
Yeah.
think? Okay. So, yeah, but the morning class hadn't done some of this stuff yet, so we did it this morning. Okay. Okay, so let's do a little bit of Kaiwa-no-Honshu. Okay. So what are we up to for this group? Nihonjin da to omoimasu, that section, did we finish that section, or were we?
We were in the middle of it.
We were in the middle of it, okay. So, does anybody remember what number we were up to? 'Cause it was-
Yeah.
7, I think.
Okay. So you wanna start it off for us, Audrey, for a change?
So 8.
Okay.
So, Mary-san wa kekkon shite inai to omoimasu.
はい、いいですね。
Oh,
じゃあ、ジュリアン
that's
さ
not
ん。
one line. Okay, Mary-san wa Takeshi-san ga tsuki da to omoimasu.
はい。10番。どうぞ。
やりさんは忙しいと思います。
はい、そうですね。11番。
メアリーさんはいい学生、right? Or no?
いや、いい学生。
いい学
two actually.
Da, but there's before that.
Yeah,
it
da, and then
was Da,
what goes with omoimasu?
to?
Yes.
Da
Okay.
to omoimasu.
はい、そう、いい学生だと思います。
Okay.
いい学生だと思います。Okay.
メアリさんは背が低くない？
That would be not short.
背が高くないだと思います。
Just 高くないと思います。The reason it doesn't take a da there is because nai, regardless of whether it's on an e adjective or a na adjective, nai in and of itself qualifies as an e adjective because it ends in e. So, and if you think about it, takakunai gets conjugated for the past tense the same way an e adjective gets conjugated for the past tense, right? Takai, takakatta, takakunai, takakunakatta, right? The nai changes to nakatta for the past tense, so that's kind of like a hallmark of e adjectiveness. And so nai gets treated like an e adjective, including following the rule that it doesn't require da before the to omoimasu. Okay?
メアリさんは静かないと思う。
Shizuka,
Oh, that's why. Okay. メアリさんは静かじゃないと思います。
hai, shizuka janai to omoimasu. There you go.
That's important.
Yeah, so you gotta remember the janai when you're conjugating the na adjectives. Okay, 14番.
メアリさんは1年生じゃないと思います。
はい、いいですね。Okay, so let's see what this next example says. So, Fran-sanとShiara-san, wanna read the example?
この人は日本人ですか？
いえ、日本人じゃないです。じゃないと思います。
Okay, what about the line above that?
日本人だと思います。と思います。
はい, so depending on what you think, you can answer yes or no for these questions coming next. Okay, so, oh, and we're basing it off of our cute little picture. So if you turn the page, you see the picture of Yamashita Sensei, right? So let's see what kinds of questions and answers we come up with. So, Shiana-san, 1番お願いします。
山下先生はいい先生ですか？
いい先生だと思います。
はい、いいですね。
有名ですか？
いえ、有名じゃないだと思います。
What kind of adjective is
What did I
yume?
just do? Oh, that's fine. I think I just kind of did it without looking at it.
Yeah,
いえ、有名じゃないと思います。
there you go, yume janai tomoimasu. And if you look at the fact that the mei is embedded in the kanji,
Yeah.
there's nothing free to conjugate. So that's kind of a clue that that has to be a na adjective. Also, just in general, na adjectives are mostly those of Chinese origin, and e adjectives are mostly those of Japanese origin, in terms of the pronunciation, the reading being given to the kanji. And if you think about kanji like takai and atarashi, at the minimum, the e hangs off the end, right? I believe kirei and kirai might be exceptions to that rule. I think they might have an e trailing off the end despite the fact that they're actually not adjectives. But at least for some of them, like yume, they're embedded in the kanji, so that helps.
I think I just kind of did it without noticing.
Yeah.
いいですか？
今だと思います。
Second one.
頭がいいですか？
What? I mean, I kind of get what
Atama is head. So,
Do you have, oh yeah, basically it's like good head, but it's
Yeah.
actually a word.
smart, yeah, so do you think he's intelligent is basically what it's asking, but, yeah. Does he have a good head? Is his head good?
I don't know. I mean, he's a professor.
So you just take your guess.
That's why it's.
Is he a good
That's
professor
why
or
it's a
bad
guessing
professor?
game. This is just a guessing exercise.
Atama ga ii. That's just what I do.
You're using to omoimasu.
Oh,
That's the whole
okay.
point of the exercise.
Yep, sure, I'm definitely listening. Atama ga ii. Ja, tomoimasu.
It's an e adjective, so what's the rule again?
Changes.
Do e adjectives take da?
No.
No, they don't.
So
So,
to omoimasu.
e tomoimasu, yeah. So, hai, e, atama ga ii tomoimasu. Okay, making sense? And by the way, the doesn't really fit very well with a formal ending.
True.
So, or hai, atama ga ii tomoimasu. Now, if we wanted to redo this exercise in casual style, you could do, ii tomo, okay, for the answer. Does that make sense? But then even the question would change if you were doing casual style across the board. Atama ga ii tomo, or atama ga ii, for ii desu ka, right? Atama ga ii, ii tomo. Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah. Okay, じゃあ次やりましょう。
Oh, I hate this word. Segataka ii desu ka?
いいえ、背が高くないと思います。忙しいですか？
はい、忙しいと思います。
はい。
結婚していますか？
結婚していると思います。
はい、結婚していると思います。いいですね。
お金をたくさん持っていますか？
Yeah. Do I just restate the entire thing, or?
You can just skip to the verb if you want to. Yeah,
Yeah.
持って
持って
いない。
Okay. Unite. Do I use da in this?
To,
or-
no,
To? Okay, because it's
it's a verb, so
Oh.
it's already got a verb piece there.
yep.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm struggling. Okay. Motte. That doesn't help at all. Motte. Could you repeat what you said?
持っていない
Motte inai
と
to omoimasu. Okay.
Okay. 持っていないと思います。
Golly. Yoku tabemasu ka?
ええ、よく食べる
食べる。
と思います。
Remember, it's the short form, right? So よく食べると思い
I
ま
was
す。
thinking of the like root,
The
ni
stem.
iku, stem
Yeah.
ni iku.
Yeah, but it's not that, it's the short form. So, よく食べると思います。
よくスポーツをしますか？よくスポーツをしますか？
いえ、あまりスポーツをしないと思います。
はい、いいですね。フランス。
フランス語を話しますか？
いえ、話しないと思います。話さない。
There you go.
いえ、話さないと思います。
はい、話さないと思います。Okay, are we out of time? Yeah, I figured we probably would be by now. Okay, so we can do picture B next time. But does that help? Does that feel like it's starting to make sense?
I don't know, short notes a lot easier to me for some reason.
Okay, maybe because you've listened to it a lot?
I grew up listening to